there, Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCG Fam Show. To you, my YouTube buddies, what's going on? Let me know in the comments. It's Fridays with Scott, a new segment on the show. That's all we're going to do, Scott. It's just going to be you 24/7. We're going to do a tent grow that you're going to consult on, and we're going to do this, and you're going to be on every time. I think it's going to be exciting because it's really more you than me. Because, you know.
I challenge that.
Well, we're going to try it anyway. So we got questions.
Let's hear these questions.
All right. Well, here, this is a good one. Is it okay to spray the flowers on fruits and vegetables? Not on your flower, but on your flowers. I mean, so like berries, tomatoes, stuff like that.
Yes, it is.
Because they're not the flowering flower. They're not the product. They're the...
Well, and that's the difference, is that when you look at flowers, you get the flower petal, you've got that protective coating, you've got the flower parts that are making the pollen and what attracts the bees. So basically, as long as you're not soaking down the internal parts of the flower, there's no harm in foliar feeding flowers.
Okay.
We're not, in a different industry, different flower type. The fear is the moisture content built up in the actual flower, which then creates mold, mildew, all sorts of fungal issues. So foliar feeding our flowers versus foliar feeding a pepper plant that has flowers actively going, or tomatoes, or it shouldn't be a big problem.
Now let me ask you this though: is there an advantage to it, like there is with foliar and other things?
I think so. It depends on your plant, your crop, your region, your season. I know, like with hot peppers, bell peppers. You get that first crop off, you're like, man, I still got some time. You can foliar feed and get that to, be aggressively flowering again to get another round of peppers before the season's up.
Well, especially if you're doing indoor kind of thing where they just kind of keep going.
But even outdoor, I mean,
they're
get another crop out of flowering from June through September. They'll continue flowering if you bring them indoors and put them under artificial lighting, but you can continue triggering more fruit set by giving them foliar feeding throughout that.
So what would you be talking about foliar feeding them to encourage that specifically?
Kelp products, humic and fulvic acids. The bloom acid works great for resetting fruit. I mean, on an auto-flowering type vegetable or fruit, it's going to continuously flower. The chaos just continues to help it make more flowers to make more fruit. Now, the downfall is once you get new flowers on a pepper, I stop foliar feeding with chaos because instead of putting the energy in producing the pepper pod, they're producing more flowers and they're not going to produce the same size pepper. So I get a flower set, I develop the fruit, pick the fruit, hit the flower set, develop the fruit.
You're cycling them.
Yeah. Okay. Tomatoes a little bit different because they're so aggressive at flowering and fruiting. You can have 40 tomatoes on one plant versus like 6 bell peppers on a plant. So with tomatoes, you can foliar feed at the same time. They're producing tomatoes and flowers.
Okay. More so the herc and stuff like that with the tomatoes, or would you...
For watering in, always.
Yeah.
And anytime you see flowering bodies with any pepper or tomato, basically prevents calcium end rot, or blossom end rot by giving them available calcium while they're forming the fruit.
Okay. There you go. Next question.
There's that one.
Okay. Hey,
There's
Bob.
that one online.
Yep. Hey, Bob, can you ask the big kahuna... It's really catching on.
Yeah.
About no-till. Now, no, hold on. I am planning a no-till setup going full probiotic soil mix. Grown organic before, but low yield turned me back. The no-till purists say nothing but water. But I'm not going to do that. I'm planning to use Nectar for the Gods this time. But what rates? So he's doing his no-till thing, but he wants to use some liquids, some inputs. How much does he use? How does that work? Would you use the liquids? Would you use the one-shot? Well, what's the deal?
Well, that's a pretty loaded question. I mean, with a no-till soil, what's your inputs? What's your starting point? How much feather? How much bone? How much kelp? How much green sand? I mean, so depending on what your initial inputs are, what your crop is like, what your end game is going to be, what your season is, what we recommend highly with the folks that are running a no-till style or a super soil type garden is to look at the basic calcium products in our line. The Herculean, the Demeters, Olympus, Aphrodites, even Persephones. You want to be able to get them the soluble forms of calcium because you've already got the nitrogen, the phosphorus, you got the potassium, you got the buildup of the soil from all the minerals you put in. We're just going to come back through and offer them constant forms of soluble calcium. Now, if you're lacking in something, you're lacking in a nitrogen form, or there's going to be different elements of our line that you can use. The nice thing is that our product line isn't designed to kill the microbes in your soil. It's there to benefit those microbes. So if you start lacking something in the soil, we have the tool to put back in that soil or feed that plant what that plant needs without destroying your microbial field or having to give you the, re-amending all the time. But it's a tough question in the sense of there is no magic dilution rate. We don't know, are you using Fox Farm, Roots Organics, or our soil? Are you using a soilless medium? Which food are you using? Which are you doing? Down to Earth, or Dr. Earth, Whitney Farms, One Shot?
So your microbial game would affect it too, right? If you're using a bokashi or if you're using some teas or whatever you're doing there, it's to help.
I've run into problems with no-till and just compost teas, aggressively compost teas, because I've gotten to the point where I've made so many microbes, so many compost teas as my feed that they ate all the food, and by the time I got into the harvest season, I was so depleted of nutrition and even soil tilth that my plants really started to suffer in the end, and I had to almost hydroponically feed them. I mean, meaning like 4 feeds a week just to keep them to finish out. So, not saying, if you build soils right, there's definitely ways of doing no-till. There's definitely great ways of doing pure probiotic farming. But you have to use these, and you got to use this, and you have to kind of look at your tools and say, hey, my plant is showing signs of this, here's the tool to fix that. So there's no magic bullet, but we have the toolbox to help you achieve the same yield that you want, but with the ease of just a water-only soil.
Okay. So would you be, how important is it to actually, what do? They check the soil, right? You can get it labbed, right? Can't you, the soil? No?
Oh, yeah, but most growers are too cheap to do a $120 sample every week to find out what's being depleted. My best growers with the best farms, they're doing 4 to 5 labs a year out of their beds to see what's being depleted and when. And it's not cost effective right now for what you're doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you just got to look at the classic signs of deficiencies and that sort of thing. And
our
do
plants
the best you
talk.
can.
So if you get intravenous, there's something wrong. You get Klein, there's something wrong. These are all things. And then you do simple slurry tests, things to find out what your parts per million are. The hard part with a slurry test with a built soil and no-till, especially in the early months, is it's going to skew to the higher side because you built it up to be a nutrient-dense medium.
Right. Yeah.
But that will deplete with more microbes, and that number will quickly reduce. And if you're in the late bloom and you're checking it and you see you're at 100 parts per million and you've got calcium deficiencies, you're going to need some feeding.
Okay. So the slurry test would be helpful with this?
Slurry test is helpful for anything. House plants to cannabis to pepper plants. It's going to tell you what you're putting in versus what the plants are eating and how efficiently they are eating.
Okay. Well, there you go. See? That's a good answer. Good answer. Okay. This is an interesting question actually, because a lot of people think about I'll just say my store doesn't have full on. I've been using Mammoth P instead. Is that comparable to full on? It's not even close, but they are something you would use to make your plant grow better. So I can see how
so would urine. So at 7-to-1, urine is a great nitrogen protein to give your plants, and it will make it grow. So does uranium. However, totally different.
So I guess, we talked about microbials. There's a lot of multi-purpose utility microbials.
Bob's tiptoeing around this because we had a very very heated conversation earlier about this scenario.
So you got cultured, you got microbe life that are like a broad-based microbial you throw in there to create microbial life in your soil.
Correct.
And then you've got some microbials that are very focused on very certain things.
Mammoth P with phosphorus, Azos from Extreme Gardening for nitrogen. Everybody's coming up with these microbes, which are all great.
Yeah.
But they're microbes.
Yeah.
Full on is not a microbe.
So what is full on to your way of thinking?
Well, the way science thinks.
Yes.
This is not my way of. This isn't an opinion. Here's the reality.
Well, I would just say that there's not opinions, but there are claims, and then there are.
Well, there's claims, but there's still science of that. This is 72 or 76 trace minerals in nanotech form. So these are
micronutrients. Is that what people?
They're pure. Yeah, this is azomite, liquefied azomite. This is liquefied accelerate. This is all the clay mineral powders that people add to their soil, but in a totally available form. And you know. The only way to make azomite available to the plant, you can't add it to the soil and your plant doesn't absorb rocks. It has to be broken down, and the one way is a microbe. Like mammoth pea would break down the phosphorus-related
It's breaking down
minerals,
the stuff in those microbes aren't this.
Specific,
they're breaking down specific things.
phosphate mineral.
Okay.
Where azos is going to specifically break down nitrogen or fix nitrogen to the soil. Mycorrhiza, so Bigfoot mycorrhiza will break down the minerals of azomite or the mineral powders and make that available to the plant, and that's all your trace minerals. Well, this is pre-digested, already broken down, 100% available trace mineral. So if you need trace minerals, which we all do, plants thrive on the trace minerals. This is the only way to get that many in there without having a humongous, aged, fungal-based soil that is minerally rich and recharged.
So while it's not food for your plant exactly like nectar is, it is kind of, but it is an available form.
It's a totally
directly available form of it.
Their technology in nanotech versus digestion is night and day difference, but it's how they're absorbed is very similar in the sense of they've created this charged ion that is available to be brought into this plant through their nanotech. Ours is we just break everything down through enzymes and microbes to make it available. So when you water it, it's available to the plant.
So, but these are things, and these other things we're talking about are things that make things out of the things in the soil to some extent.
Yeah, for organic gardening, like if you're I got my tomato plot and this is my organic no-till, then you need microbe life. You need cultured. You need mammoth peas and the extreme gardening companies to give you these microbes to put into the soil to break down the organic matter. Organic matter doesn't just absorb into the plant. A chunk of bone meal does not get absorbed by the plant. It needs microbial activity to break that down into a usable form for that plant to consume. Well, that's what all those companies have.
Right.
So when you look at cultured different teas and what they have, you'll see some crossover between photosynthesis plus cultured teas and mammoth pea. But then, like nectar, feather meal is Pegasus potion, which is also in Medusa, which is also in Gaia, which, we add it to other things as a base, but if you want to specifically dial something in, that's where, I want phosphorus to be more available. I'm going to go out and get Megaphos or Mammoth P to make that happen.
In addition to some other microbial, probably.
Right, and I'm still brewing my compost teas off of humus-rich, worm castings or compost sources. So it really is, there's not an if and or. One's not better than the other. The reality is what's your plant doing? How is it responding? I won't say that Mammoth P is your secret silver bullet. I won't say that Megaphos is or Azos or cultured.
Yeah.
But diversity is your silver bullet. If you have diversity, whatever you overdid will then be consumed by something else that's under. They balance each other in life. So
in the worst case scenario, you throw it all in there and everything's going to be fine. But you hope to get to a point where you don't have to do that because you learn what's works for you and works for your garden.
Yeah, well, and we're working with an entity that's drawing from the soil constantly. Yeah. So no matter what, you have to keep the balance going in the soil because the plant is sucking out the imbalance.
Yeah.
So you can't keep your no-till perfect because you can't completely replace exactly what that plant took out. Okay. So if the plant eats a lot of phosphorus, well, you need to replenish that phosphorus so then the Mammoth P microbes have phosphorus to consume on your next round.
They're useless to you and useless to themselves. They're in there just sitting there going, where's the phosphorus?
Peat moss. They're just eating peat moss, and they're not reducing. You're not releasing what the plant needs from that microbe.
I gotcha.
So I can never tell you that one is better than the other. You need this more than the other. It comes down to your garden, what you want, what you're seeing, what the plants are doing, what your genetics react to, and you have a plethora of tools to work with. Using them all the time, it's redundant, it's overworked, it's overpriced, it doesn't need to be, but there's definitely tools that definitely make changes that you go, oh, okay. Well.
So would you start with everything and back up, or would you slowly add things to it?
I go the other route. I start everything half, I start it cautiously, I add things, I document, I watch, I see, and then if they don't make changes, then I set them aside and wait for another combination and try it again. But
so with most of these things like microbials, what's the time frame of seeing a change in it for good or bad?
That's tough. Because it really depends on
days or weeks or hours or months or
I've seen it in hours and I've seen it in weeks.
So you're just watching and seeing what happens.
And really at the end of the game, everybody wants tomorrow. Plants aren't fast food. Just fat Americans are fast food. So outside of that, you have to go the full round, test at the very end, because what you may have done in the first 3 weeks of bloom or the last 4 weeks of veg can set something in the fruit at the very end that you don't know you did until you get to the very end. So you can take something out you did in veg 3 weeks before the end and notice a difference at the end of your harvest. So to me, it's you really have to run it 3, 4, 5, 6 times to figure out whether or not that's something you really need really like, or it's just snake oil.
That's why it takes time to do this. It's not a one-run thing.
Yeah, if you're in a hurry, just there's dispensaries on every corner. Shit, those guys have been doing this for 30 years. They know what's good. So go buy their good thoughts. But if you want to play, learn, and really experience what the plant is doing, then you got to watch the plant and see how it responds to things. Document.
There you go. Document.
For more information about anything on today's show, go to our website, OCGFAM345. And if you buy anything while you're there, use the code FAMSUMMER. It's going to save you 20%, and it's a lot of fun. The OCG Fam Show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCG Fam Show. Yeah. See you tomorrow.